Everybody, I never can quite tell on my desktop if I am live yet or not because it does a funny circle thing. So hopefully I am live right now in the group. But I wanted to talk to y'all about something. Tomorrow's call is going to be on something that's really deep, and I know a few of you have kind of been looking forward to this. I wanted to save it for later in the month after we covered some basics. But we're going to be talking about some heavy stuff to do with self-worth, to do with negative beliefs that we have about ourselves. And that's not a separate subject. It's something that's very much related to why we sabotage. So I wanted to do a quick video today to talk about whether there's a difference between ed sabotage and self-sabotage. I believe that there is. So ed sabotage is typically sabotage that comes from that voice in your head that points you towards something that's going to harm you, but oftentimes you don't really understand that you're listening to a lie. So for example, Ed might say, it's been a while, you can afford to have one bite, it's not going to be a problem, and you fall for that. You don't work through the steps, you don't capture the thought, you don't respond to that, and you listen to it and you fall for it, and that's an Ed lie. He sort of gets us to believe that it won't harm us or whatever. We fall for it. We fall for a lie like that. So ed sabotage usually comes in that sort of form. Now, the voice of sabotage that leads to self-sabotage is very similar to ed sabotage because it's based on the same principle that we believe a lie. So again, ed sabotage might be very situational, right? It might be that again, you're at a wedding and there's cake in front of you, or your friends are eating a certain thing, or there might be a situation that sets you up for that. Self-sabotage is based on something deeper. It comes from a deeper place. And so it's something that we need to talk about because some of you guys are like, I'm fighting Ed's lies. I know how to overcome those. But what really is happening is that you believe a lie. It's still a lie. You're still hearing a sabotaging thought in your head, but it's something that is a false belief about who you are. And a lot of times it has to do with your worth. It has to do with your identity. It has to do with what you believe about yourself, how you perceive yourself as a human being. And what I found is you handle that in a similar way as ed sabotage, but it's a lot, there's a lot more work that it takes to overcome self-sabotage. So for example, if I believe that I am not worthy of really ever being well and meeting my potential, that is a deep, deep belief, and a lot of times that comes from childhood. It comes from something that someone said to me. It comes from an impression that I got because of the way someone treated me. That is a deeper lie, and rooting that up takes a little bit of a different and longer term strategy than just saying, when Ed says it's only going to be one bite, you quickly capture that and say, no, Ed, it's never just one bite. I'm not doing it, right? You can just shut that down. When you have a deeply held belief that is getting in your way, like you're not worth all this effort, that is much deeper. So you have to do a little bit of exploring where the roots of that are, and I'm going to dig into that some tomorrow. Again, I realize this is a very, very deep subject, and you might be surprised to be talking about this in a group that's about overcoming compulsive and emotional eating. But what I've found is if you have been on this journey for a long time and you're sort of working the steps and you're dealing with those ed thoughts, but what's getting in your way is something bigger, something deeper. It's still based on a lie, but because you have heard this lie your entire life and it's something you have truly come to believe about yourself, it is harder for you to see it for the lie that it is. And when you hear a lie like that, like you're not worth it, it's much harder to come back with a comeback, right? Especially if you truly believe it. Maybe someone in your family told you that, or again, they treated you in a way that made you feel that way. It is a much deeper thing. And so while we're continuing on this journey of understanding that winning this battle against our eating issues is in our thought life, I'm going to ask you to dig deeper. If you're listening to this today, I want you to come to tomorrow's live call at 10 a.m. Eastern with some ideas about maybe some of the things that you believe about yourself that aren't true. For example, one of the things I believed about myself that wasn't true was that bulimia was part of my identity. I did not believe that it was something I could be healed from, that I could recover from, because I thought it was actually part of my personality. It was part of who I was. I didn't believe that it was a sickness. So I had to work really hard to overcome that. I also, as a child, I always felt like I wasn't important. And I can tell you where that comes from. Probably I was a middle child, and we had there was a lot of kids in the house, and there was a lot of chaos, and I was like often just kind of forgotten about. And so when you grow up with that message, like you're not as important as this person, or you're not as loved as this other person, even though that wasn't true, I can tell you now that I was loved. I didn't feel that way, and so I believed that true. And to be true, and when it came time for me to heal, I realized one of the things that kept me self-sabotaging was realizing, well, I don't think I'm even important enough, or I don't even think that my life matters enough for me to spend the time and energy to fix. And so, yes, this is deep stuff, but I'm asking you to go there because what I want to see happen with all of you, and we're halfway through the month, is for you to embrace this idea that all the things that you believe about yourself are not true. Another great example is I always would describe myself as a perfectionist. And so I would say out loud, I'm a perfectionist. Even into my journey, I realized that. But there was a point where I realized that that was me claiming something about myself based on past behavior. In my life, I have been multiple times clinically diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. That comes with a sort of perfectionistic type behavior, right? Or an attitude. And one of the things I had to do was really adjust and say, how has perfectionism kept me sick? Because the reality is perfection can't be achieved, even in recovery, right? It can't. And so Ed can use that belief that I have about myself. And when I'm saying I'm a perfectionist and then I make even the slightest choice that is less than optimal, he can harass me and use that against me. And I had to get to a place where I said, in the past, I have struggled with perfectionistic tendencies, but I'm working on that. Do you see the difference? If I state out loud, I'm a perfectionist, Ed can use that against me. He can use it to help me self-sabotage. If I say, in the past, I've struggled with perfectionistic tendencies, that's then not who I am. It's something about me that I am able to work on and change. And so, again, I realize this is super, super deep stuff, but this is what's on my heart. I think we need to go there. We also need to talk about, and this will be part of the conversation tomorrow, where do we get our worth from? If you are counting on another person in your life to be the one who tells you or shows you or lets you know that you're worthy, it's great if you have a person like that in your life, but I got to tell you, at some point in your life, you are going to get let down. When you're depending on someone else to tell you or give you your worth, they are human and they will let you down whether they mean to or not. So discovering the source of your worth and really wrapping your arms around that and believing it is another reason why you will be able to overcome self-sabotage. So again, I do want to review Ed's sabotage and really addressing those Ed thoughts, but I want to dig into this deeper part of it too, because you may be very good at addressing Ed thoughts and then you're like, why do I keep doing this? Or yes, I knew that it was an Ed lie, but a deeper lie is what actually led me to continue in the behavior anyway. So that's what's on my mind. That's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. I'd love for you to bring your thoughts around that. Do some thinking today about yourself. What are the things that you believe that may not be true? And there's a lot of, I did years of work on uncovering root causes of that. Sometimes it's important to do that work. Obviously, you can't do that in a 4-week group, but sometimes it's important to understand that when you're a kid, you believe everything adults say. And if an adult said something for you, and it's very sad some adults speak to children this way, like, you're worthless, you're useless. Or maybe an adult in your life made you feel like unless you achieved perfection or did everything perfectly, you were a problem. Just because you believe that is truth when you're a child does not mean it is the truth. And so it's really, really, really important to start digging into this stuff. And you may need to do your own work on root causes. And I'll suggest some things like that. But again, I'm really looking forward to this conversation tomorrow. I think it's going to be impactful. I hope as many as possible of you can be on the call. I do think when you can interact with each other, when you can interact with me live, when you can really just be part of that, there's an atmosphere. The information's good listening to it later. In fact, I suggest even if you're on, listen to it later. I do listen to it again later. But there's something about being there that makes you feel part of that community. And as we know, the opposite of addiction is connection. So come and get connected with us tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. and I will see y'all then. Bye. Hope you have a good day.